Hey everyone. So let's talk a little wrestling news because there's been some news going around here when it comes to some of the top three, some of the best promotions, top promotions, in the world, if not the country. And of course, we're going to start with WWE. Last night, Monday Night Raw was the go-home show, or one of the go-home shows, I should say, to Elimination Chamber. And what they did with Raw last night was something that they have not done, I think, ever, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to two big time events coming up. And that is, they used Monday Night Raw to pretty much put the finishing touches on Elimination Chamber, basically get you ready for that, hype up the matches and everything, and that's going to be happening. But also, they started the build to the matches and stories that are going to take place at WrestleMania. We saw that with Cody's match and the fact that he lost to Drew McIntyre thanks to the bloodline. And in a way, you have, two stories kind of intertwining there. You have Drew McIntyre's descent into darkness, or his descent into basically doing whatever it takes to win, to become champion, even accepting help from those that screwed him out of the WWE Championship prior. And basically doing it to Cody that in a way that's very identical and similar to what happened to him at WrestleMania 39. And then on top of that, you have Cody, basically in a situation to where Seth is like, hey, you want to now take me up on my offer? And you can kind of tell just by the subtle moments there that, Cody is considering it, but there's that trust factor because of the history they have. It's like, and maybe this gets addressed during the Garrison Waller effect on Saturday. That maybe Cody addresses the fact that the reason he hasn't, fully accepted Seth's offer is because of the fact that he has trust issues. He knows that Seth, is upset. Even though Seth won't admit it, that he didn't choose him for Mania because, Seth wants to get his win back. Seth wants to prove that he can beat Cody. And maybe we find that out. Maybe that's why he says, can I really trust you, knowing that you're still knowing that you're disappointed that I didn't choose you and instead just went with Roman. You have to wonder if that'll be addressed. And then on top of that, you have, Jey Uso being cost the Intercontinental title at the hands of his brother. And now you're making that pretty much, a build towards WrestleMania as well. And, again, this is something you've never seen before. Even when the Chamber became the event before WrestleMania, you never saw build, for WrestleMania in the same show, in the same go-home show for another event that was also putting the final build and touches, for that event. You never seen that before, and now you are. Basically, WWE is finally setting the table, they're setting the pieces down for WrestleMania, but at the same time saying, okay, we also got to put down the final pieces for Chamber, and that's what they did last night. And I thought they did pretty well. Overall, you're starting to see the direction for a lot of WrestleMania matches coming into being. You're seeing this coming into being in a big way, and that's great. That is terrific. Now, as far as WrestleMania is concerned, one conflicting thing people have with it, is the whole Rock dynamic. Some people are enjoying, if not a lot of people are enjoying Rock's heel run right now. But, the question people have is, how long is it going to last? How long is he going to be here? What's going on? Is there, similarity to Tyson and Austin and that situation at WrestleMania 14? It's like, what is it? What's going on? What's happening? Are we going to be getting a tag match on night one, between Cody and Seth against Roman and Rock? Everybody is kind of like, kind of mixed about this, kind of, very talkative about like, okay, where are we going with this kind of deal? We know the destination, hopefully, is Cody finally winning the championship, but how are we getting there with this scenario? And You know, how long is this going to be? How long is that going to be? And honestly, with, you know, Rock, I've said this before, I don't think the Rock heel turn is going to last past Mania. And I think a lot of people are starting to notice that. You know, a lot of people are starting to notice that. I mean, as I mentioned before, even, you know, Greg of Good Mic Work even kind of agreed that, you know, the Rock, because I mentioned this on a tweet that I put out, you know, to various people. I said, you know, basically with, you know, Moana 2 coming out, you know, later this year, with Rock possibly reprising his role as Maui, and then him being Maui in the live action movie next year, it's like, you know, does Disney want to associate with somebody that's going to be a heel? And if he's a heel and you have these young kids watching wrestling, and then they see and hear that, oh, the guy that's Maui is a bad guy, are they going to want to see that because he's a bad guy, or are they not going to want to see it? You see, that's a question that, you know, a Rock's PR team and even Disney and all that would worry about. And honestly, I think because of that, Rock's not going to stay heel for forever. In fact, I don't even think he's going to stay heel till the end of Mania. And what I mean by that is, I don't think we're going to, because here's the thing, for all we know, Rock could remain heel until the moment where he shows his true colors and basically, you know, prevents Roman from cheating again, and Roman gets the message of, oh crap, I just got set up, you know, and he loses the title. You know, he could remain that way until that moment. But then again, you know, he could remain heel only until night one. And what I mean by that is it goes back to something else I brought up. You know, the fact that, you know, Roman, you know, could be positioned because he could be positioned because of the fact that he'll notice like little things here and there. You know, like obviously he noticed how Rock was kind of saying certain things and, you know, pointing towards him and then not pointing towards, he's going to notice these things. And I think what that could do, depending on how far they go with Rock being a heel, is it could go, like I said, it could potentially go to the very end, to where it costs Roman at the end, where Rock shows his true colors, like, you thought you were going to do it this time, but we outsmarted you. Or it could last to only night one, where Roman basically, if the tag match happens, you know, Rock is getting ready to tag Roman, and Roman just jumps off the apron, goes and grabs his belt, walks away with Paul Heyman, and then basically shouts to Rock something along the lines of, you ain't fooling me. You see, something like, you ain't gonna fool me. You say, you ain't gonna, he says, I see what you're doing, you ain't gonna fool me, and you ain't taking this from me, or you ain't helping Cody take this from me, or something like that. I could see them having Roman, you know, kind of, you know, figure out that, wait a minute, I think I'm being duped here. I think I'm being tricked. I think I'm being set up. And then you can have him, like I say, walk away from Rock during that main event, and basically, you know, show that he's pretty much figured out that, hey, you're trying to set me up. That ain't gonna work. He says, I'm too smart for that. And that could also lead to, you know, Roman's downfall the next night. You know, that's a possibility. Because why? Because honestly, you do not want to make the guy that's pretty much been the face of your company up until Cody's shown up, you know, you don't want to make him look like a fool. You don't want the guy that's one of the more dominant champions in the modern era in the past 4 years look like a fool. You want to make him look like he's smart. You want to keep him smarter than that. You want to make him look at least intelligent enough to see, you know, through something that obviously, you know, we're supposed to think he doesn't see. You know, so that could be one scenario they do. But whatever happens, again, I've said it before, Rock's not going to stay a heel after Mania because of all this other stuff he's got to do. You know, from the UFL, you know, to the, you know, the Maui project, you know, Moana projects, I should say, and everything else. He's not going to remain a heel for much longer, and that's a fact. So to me, you know, I think right now all we're doing is just having fun, guessing and wondering, and, you know, and pointing out, certain things, you know, that we've noticed, you know, as we get closer to WrestleMania, to where the clues are there. You know, it's just that WWE is not really acknowledging them, nor are we seeing the participants in them acknowledging it yet. So yeah, I think, you know, as Rock has said, whether you like it or not, the way he said it, we're just enjoying the ride because, you know, we don't know what the conclusion is going to be as we head towards Mania, but we kind of have an idea of maybe where it's going to come into play. Now, as far as, you know, AEW is concerned, obviously the positive for them is they've nearly sold out Greensboro for Sting's retirement match in Revolution. And, you know, we got Will Ospreay going up against Takeshita, you know, which is obviously going to result in an Ospreay face turn. You know, we got the Bucks embracing their inner, you know, not inner, but basically embracing their real life EVP status and stuff. You know, AEW's got all the components that they need to really bounce back in the year of 2024, mostly in the spring and into the summer. They got the components there, but they now basically have to utilize them correctly. And with Mercedes coming in, you know, and Okada potentially coming in, you know, they really, as I said before, really got to balance. You really find a balance there when it comes to integrating them into the program, because if not, you know, you might have Mercedes decide to opt out of, you know, her contract being, you know, with the company and go elsewhere. So they got the components, they got the necessary tools needed, they got the right people as champions, if you will. They just gotta basically go with the, you know, go in the right direction, and, you know, let the right people lead them in that direction for 2024. You know, and I'm thinking that, heck, if you want to keep Sting around, storyline wise, you could have him become, you know, the executive president. Like, you know, you have the EVPs of the Bucks flaunting their power and everything, but what happens if, let's say, they lose at Revolution, and then, you know, on the Dynamite afterwards, you have Sting come out, and then he announces to them that Tony Khan made him their boss, the executive president above them. You know, that would be something of an interesting dynamic, because then you basically have a power struggle within AEW like we have in WWE, maybe not as prominent as the one in WWE, but you'd have an interesting power struggle, because now you have these guys that are EVPs trying to do, you know, things, you know, in their favor, but then they have to be careful because the EP might be like, ain't gonna happen on my watch. So again, you know, AEW, Tony Khan, they have the right components. They have the right components and everything for 2024, for spring, to have a successful 2024, you know, in the spring, in the summer, if not into the fall and winter. It's just that after Revolution, they got to start really, you know, utilizing those components, you know, and utilizing them, you know, in a big way. You know, so that's just my thought on that. Now, as far as TNA goes, you know, obviously the roster is not happy with D'Amore being fired and everything, and they basically put a letter out essentially saying, look, we get and understand why things like this happen, but, you know, he was basically, you know, a major part of our family. He was our heart and soul. So if you can please consider bringing him back, we greatly appreciate it, you know, because he is a great contribution to the company. You know, I don't have the letter in front of me, but it's essentially in that manner. If you will. Now, will D'Amore be back? Who knows? You know, that's up to Anthem and whether or not they consider, okay, maybe we made a mistake, you know, firing him. But I think what it is that whether or not they bring him back or they don't bring him back, you know, the guy that's basically taking his place, you know, he says he's willing to learn. You know, he's willing to learn and everything, you know, and take advice. Well, let's just hope he does. Let's just hope he is a man of his word and does exactly what he says he's going to do, and take advice from those in TNA that know what they're doing, so that he can help run TNA successfully if they don't get D'Amore back in some capacity. But, you know, even they too have the components needed right now to, you know, have a successful 2024, maybe more so than AEW. But we'll have to see. Wait and see. But, you know, if they can get past this and try to move on and say, okay, you know, D'Amore, you know, had his time, we're going to miss him, but let's see what the new regime has to offer. that might be something that's good in the long run. And also, I want to talk about this in closing. It seems Dave Meltzer has not had a very good week. He's basically been, I would say, I don't know what, 0 for 7, 0 for 20, whatever you want to call it. Maybe 1 for 19, out of his reporting. Because he's made some accusations, well, I wouldn't say accusations, but he's made some observations and reports that have been denied, that have made him look bad. And you got to wonder, is his age catching up with him? And I don't think his age is catching up with him. I think it's more along the lines, and I'm not trying to be an excuse, what's the word I'm trying to look for? What I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to make an excuse. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to make an excuse for Dave. But I think with everything going on, in WWE right now, in AEW, and now with TNA, to me, I think it's just with any job, whether it's even if it's a job you do from the comfort of your own home, like what Dave does, it can be, mentally overwhelming, and there are times that, you will make some mistakes, in your job, in your reporting. I mean, how many times have we had, credible news sites and news, networks and all that make reports to where they've had to retract those reports because, that's not the information we got and everything, we were wrong. How many times have we seen that? A lot. We've seen that a lot. We've seen that a ton of times. And Dave doing what he's doing is no different. I mean, Sean Ross Sapp, who's one of the more reliable ones out there with Fightful, he's made mistakes. And all because there's so much news going on in the wrestling business now, all across the board, that it gets a little confusing, a little conflicting for people, especially those that have been doing it for a long time, like Meltzer. It becomes a little too confusing and conflicting for them to handle. And I think what Dave needs to do, and I don't know if Alvarez has suggested this to him, but I'm sure his family has, and that is, he needs to take a break. Just take a break from wrestling, stop reporting for at least a month, give yourself a mental break, and then come back refreshed and ready to go. That's what I would do if I'm him. Leave the reporting and the observations to other people like Sapp, Johnson, Alvarez, leave it to them, and just take a nice little vacation and come back refreshed mentally. That's what I would do if I was him. But hey, he's dedicated, but you got to give him credit. The guy is dedicated to his job, and he's going to stick with it for as long as he can. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to talk about that here and, give you my thoughts on a lot of stuff going on in wrestling right now, WWE, AEW, TNA. Let me know what your thoughts overall are on some of the things I've mentioned. Where do you think some of the things are going to go with WWE as we head to WrestleMania? What do you think is going to happen with AEW going into 2024 post-Revolution, as well as TNA? And what are your thoughts on Dave Meltzer kind of having some slip-ups, if you will, reporting-wise, more so than usual? And do you think maybe he does need a mental break? Let me know down below in the comments or the live chat during the premiere, and I'll talk to y'all later.